right. Well, welcome to yet another episode of the Glory Boys podcast, where we're here to help you think bigger. I'm one of your hosts, Austin.
And I'm Darren.
And I'm Trev. And if you're watching on YouTube...
You got to hold your mic, though.
No cuts, guys. I was like, he's leaning into this.
You guys didn't even say your mic's down there.
No, I wasn't paying attention. I was like waiting
That's
for my
so
line.
funny.
Dude,
I think it's because I was just talking without it.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, well,
This all needs
I
to
am
stay.
Trev.
Should we just leave all that in
Yeah.
there?
Yes.
That's crazy.
No mistakes.
All right, well, I'm Trev, and if you're watching on YouTube, that was probably awesome. You should subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more of our videos and our episodes.
Yep.
Hit the like button if you like this video. That'll help. And if you're listening on the audio version, if you would leave us a rating, that would be awesome because it helps us spread the word to more people and add more value.
Yes, and today we have a spicy guest for you. We're just super glad that you tuned in. I'm glad that you tuned in because it's going to add a ton of value to your life. But today we're joined by a billboard charting music producer, songwriter who has hundreds of millions of streams. Not like 100, not 1,000, hundreds of millions, that's
That's a couple.
crazy. And his work has been licensed by multiple major networks and brands. And let's just welcome our friend, man of God, good-looking dude,
Oh, yeah.
great head of
Ain't
hair,
that
Yeah.
the truth?
beautiful man, Christian Hale.
Let's go. Even got
all
the
those
clap
streams
track
are
in there.
all those streams are bots for starters. I'll pay for. And you know what? Anybody can go take a logo from Google or Nike or whatever, just slap it on
Whatever.
their site. Be like, yeah,
Whatever.
we're buddies, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my word.
Yeah,
Classic tell of an amazing artist is they're just usually just ready to discount any
Yeah.
credit that
Yeah.
you try to give them.
Yeah.
But we're
Yeah.
super stoked to have you on the show today, Christian. Thanks for taking the time out of your schedule and joining us.
Yeah.
Man, it's so good to be here with the Glory Boys. I love this. You know, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I'm over here in Nashville, Tennessee, or to be more specific, the burbs of Nashville, Tennessee. But I'm originally from Nebraska. To put the burbs I live in, like I basically live in like the Elkhorn or the South Lincoln. There
Oh,
you
yeah.
go, Nebraska
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
of Nashville. So like I'm a dad over here now. I'm a husband.
Let's
I
go.
just turned 30, so like I'm living that burb life. But I love being back with some Nebraska guys who are
Yeah.
also creatives, entrepreneurs,
go.
doing that thing. It's like the melding of all the worlds for me right now. So
Yeah.
I'm pumped to get in this thing, talk shop, encourage some listeners, hopefully not discourage some listeners, but maybe discourage them.
I mean, your story
Have-
is anything but discouraging, so I can't imagine that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, and I'm sure we're gonna get into all this. Like, yeah, I mean, I've been fortunate to have some really good moments and way more failures than successes, and that's just kind of how it goes. Nobody likes to talk about the failures, though, right? Like,
Yeah.
Right.
it's like to read the highlight reels, all the streams, all the blah 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 blah. But you know, it's been a journey getting here. So
Absolutely.
let's
Well, real
talk
quick-
shop.
Yeah, let's do it. Real quick, before we get in, want to give a quick shout out to our new podcast sponsor.
Ooh.
That's new.
Let's go.
A company that we've been using for years, and we love their products, and they have been so gracious to us in providing some lighting to light this amazing studio.
Yeah.
And that company is Nanlite. And whether you, if you're wanting to get into lighting for video production and photography, but are not sure where to start, make sure you check out the new FC series from Nanlite. They are affordably priced LED spotlights that are full featured. The quality and color accuracy of these lights are top notch. They're easy to use for beginners, but they have all the features that you as professionals need, from running on Bluetooth. They have an app where you can control them, which is amazing. We use a couple of these lights from this series. They're great. They run on either AC or battery. They come with cases anywhere from the small but powerful FC60B all the way up to the 500 watt monster, the FC500B. The FC series from Nanlite is going to make your videos look amazing.
Oh, yeah.
Shouts out to Nanlite.
Shouts out.
They're amazing. Give them a check out. Go buy some of their products. They're awesome. You won't be disappointed.
We love you now.
And now, without further ado, let's get into our episode with Mr. Christian Hale.
Yeah. Hey, Christian.
Is this the
question for you.
first sponsor? Well, first off, is this the first sponsored podcast?
It is.
Yes.
Dude, and these guys are gonna watch this and be like, "Yeah, this guy on here, we're done." We're done.
No, they're gonna love it, dude.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something's gonna happen. No, I'm sorry. I'm done. I'm done cracking jokes.
No, you're good, man. You're good. We love it. I was just gonna ask, do you remember me from Lincoln Christian High School?
Of course, dude.
Dude,
Genuinely.
Thanks. These guys had told me like they know you also, and when they first mentioned your name like a while back, he's like this music producer. He's really awesome. And I was like, I knew a Christian Hale once, but I don't really know if that sounds like him or not. And I was trying to like remember back to high school, and because you eventually transferred to Southwest, right?
I did. You know,
Yeah,
I was a good straight-laced Christian kid that went to the evil dark side of public high school.
Yeah. You're really,
funny story about that. Like, what was actually funny about that? Like, anyone listening that went to Christian school will get a kick out of this. But there was like some award that like one 8th grader per school in the whole state of Nebraska won this, like, I don't know what it was, like some star student, we're proud of you award. And then in the most Nebraska thing possible, you got to go to this achievement breakfast that who spoke at it? None other than Tom Osborne.
That's right.
And so it's like late into the 8th grade year, Lincoln Christian selected me to be this like star 8th grader award. And then like 2 weeks after that, I had to sit down with the principal at the time, and my parents did, and said, hey, we're actually sending him to Southwest. And you know, I mean, it was only like a class of 40 kids. So it's not like I beat out hundreds of kids, just like 39, give or take, that who's counting. And so yeah, then but they're like all seriousness aside, there was like conversations from some of the administration of like, you know, like, we think you're a good kid, you have your head on straight, but like you're gonna see a lot of stuff over there in the public schools. Like, we think you can handle it. We're praying for you, but like you can always come back here if things get like a little too on edge. And like we're talking, those of you in Nebraska listening, we're talking South Lincoln. Like, I mean, not too edgy.
Not too edgy, no.
But no, dude. So yeah, I did transfer away from Lincoln Christian and went to the dark side of public schools. But no, I definitely remember you and your brother Blake. Like,
dude, yeah.
I have a weird memory, for better or worse. So yeah, this is so full circle on so many levels. I love it,
dude. Well, that's great to hear. And I honestly didn't remember, because I guess I would have been like maybe a year younger than you.
I think so.
And I didn't remember like anything really musically about you. And so, yeah, when they were just explaining like what you do now, I was like, man, I have no idea. Maybe it's the same kid, maybe it's not. But I'm glad to know it is, and I'm glad to talk to you again. And this is rad. So, you also, speaking of your time in Nebraska, used to play for a band called Voda, and with Brian and John. Is that right?
Yeah, man. Brian Olson, I feel like he's like the local celebrity in Nebraska for like the 17th time in his life.
It just keeps happening. It's just cyclical.
Yeah.
I know. Brian's going to be like 85, 90 and like have another run over there. I did play with Voda. I mean, that's such a, kind of a full circle thing of like one of the many ways, stages along the way of how I got into the music thing.
Mm-hmm.
And like Voda and that whole time in my life, we can talk about the journey of it, but like that was really like one of the first big pivots to what I'm doing now. Like,
okay,
producing, writing songs, working on commercial music, that whole thing. Like, I owe so much of that whole thing to Brian and Voda.
Wow, sick.
And yeah, as of the time we're filming this, Brian just got off The Voice like a month ago.
Mm-hmm.
He just sold out his show with Nathan Chester at the Bourbon Theater.
Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as somebody that's known Brian for a long time now, like, so happy to see him have that win, have that moment in The Voice. And as somebody that, like, Brian kind of took me under his wing when I was like a 19-year-old kid, something like that, and, had me out playing with Voda. But like, I grew up at Lincoln Christian and youth groups around Nebraska seeing Brian play. So like, seeing him as a young kid doing the thing and then playing alongside him for a lot of years, my like late teen years, early 20s, and then now seeing him have that moment now, I'm like, yeah, like anyone that's been close to Brian is like, I'm not surprised at all that like he's getting the attention he deserves. He's been so good for so long and is a great guy. So love seeing that moment happen for the old Bri dog. Shout out to Bri if you're watching.
Yeah, dude, it's been sick. We filmed a project with him unrelated to music earlier, and
I've seen that video.
Yeah, it was a blast.
Looked look pretty bad, but you know.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
We're working on it.
Yeah.
yeah, we're working on it.
Yeah.
So let's do talk about kind of how you dipped your toe into music when it first started for you, and then tell us a little bit about where you started and then where you ended up now and how that shift looked.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, kind of starting at the beginning, I was always around music. My grandpa, like, he played in bands starting in high school. Like, he would actually, like, skip high school events to go play in bands with his high school band director. And, like, his high school band director would sneak him out of his religious parents' house at night to go play bar gigs. And he would make more in one night than his dad did in a whole week of work. But then, like, his parents found the money and that he was making, and he lied to them about, like, hey, like, I actually stole this money from my friend's dad whose house I was going over to, because in their eyes that would be better than playing secular music at a bar. So
Oh
like,
my goodness.
it's like deep in the blood. So that guy is my grandpa. Like, he played music his whole life, like various levels of professionally, but like always was like playing in bands, that kind of thing. And so some of my earliest memories were just like, he had a converted garage that he turned into a music room. And like, it wasn't a studio or anything like this, but just like instruments were always around. Family holidays were like going out in the music room and like playing the drums, guitars. He had like MIDI keyboards in like the 80s and 90s, like before that was even a thing.
Wow.
So like I had some early exposure to it. And then, you know, kind of early on too, grew up in specifically the Church of Christ in my younger years. And like those of you that are any Church of Christers out there know that in the traditional sense, there's no instruments. So like it's all a cappella music. And my mom sang in an a cappella group. And like when I was a young kid, like I would go to the a cappella groups with her, and like, I don't know, like my ear was around harmonies and voices and beatboxing. Like there's weirdly like a beatboxing scene in that. And so like
Wow.
I had a lot of early family exposure, you know, between church and some of that, and then like the family thing. And then, you know, when I was a kid, started taking piano lessons and had such a good teacher in Nebraska. It's so funny just kind of looking at it now, but like she really encouraged me to write original music. And also like I would do this thing where she would give me my song to play. And I'd be like, yeah, you know, that's cool and all, but like, and we're talking like I was a third, fourth grader. I'd be like, that's cool and all, but don't you think it sounds better like this? And now sometimes people pay me money to tell them, man, don't you think it sounds better if we do this? Like, it's just, it's weird.
Shouts out your teacher.
I know, Colleen Robb, if you're watching this, you're probably not, but like, owe a lot to you. No, but like, I feel like now as this, you know, old, newly 30-year-old, like I can even look back at moments that early and be like, holy cow, like there were things there that at the time, like no one would have ever known. Yeah. And like now having a kid of my own, I think through that lens, right, of like, what are these things that he's experiencing now that like we're not even paying attention to that could become something. But then kind of through like the Lincoln Christian times, like started playing piano, drums, guitar, like doing that thing. And then around middle school, like kind of started playing in some different worship bands, youth bands, started playing drums at this Hispanic church that met on 13th and F in Lincoln, Nebraska when I was a fifth grader. Wow. I emailed the pastor at this Hispanic church who said he was needing musicians. And he emailed my mom and was like, hey, you know, your kid's like emailing me saying he can play the drums. And my mom was like, you should come listen to him. He can play the drums. And so like did that, like was this like 5th, 6th, 7th grade kid that played with all these adults, and just had a lot of people encourage me along the way. Part of the kind of move to Southwest in high school too was like there were like kind of compared to Lincoln Christian, like just a lot more music opportunities and encouragement to like get in the arts and try that out, and like, you know, hundreds of kids doing that. So yeah, kind of just like did the thing along the way and got to the point where, you know, kind of, you know, maybe sophomore, junior year of high school, knew that I wanted to do this music thing, and had a lot of encouragement from my music teachers at the high school. Like, hey, I think you're good at this. I think you can have a career in music. And like, there was kind of presented to me, like, you can sort of do one of a couple things, like talented kid from Nebraska, music career. Here's your options. Like, you can like go play in a symphony orchestra, or like, or be an opera singer. Like there's an option. And I'm like, well, I'm not going to do that. Or you can go be a music teacher. And like at the time, like I was in choir and like really into that whole world, and was like, cool, like I'm gonna like go do like the music education route at UNL, but kind of all at the same time, like on the side, like I'm playing at a bunch of different churches, like even as a high school kid, and like the Hillsong phase of like worship music was like taking off, and like I'm starting 12,000 bands with my buddies in high school, like kind of the early roots of like what my now actual career has turned into. So like that's all kind of happening parallel to this like music ed UNL thing. So I'm like, all right, cool. I go to UNL, do the music ed thing for, spoiler alert, 2.5 years till I didn't anymore. And kind of how that program worked was like the first couple years were a lot of music, and the back half of the thing is a lot of education, and specifically like education in elementary schools, middle schools, high school. Like you're in the classroom every day. And so the first 2 years that were like a lot of the music stuff, I'm like, man, this is cake. Like the classes were easy. I enjoyed it, even though it was pretty classical. Like I still was like it was kind of in my sweet spot. When we then got to like year 3, and it was like you're spending 90% of your time in the classroom every day, I kind of had this moment of like, holy cow, like I love music. Ironically, like to this day, I actually found I still love teaching and I love education. Like I'm a lifelong learner, but like to go do this in this setting in the classroom every day, I'm like, this isn't it. And it was this like mini little identity crisis at the old age of 19, but like, for 3, 4, 5 years, I kind of had been having people tell me like this is how you're going to be able to do it. Otherwise, like you might have to go get a real job. And like including, I love them, but like including my own parents who like my dad worked outside, was like very blue collar. My mom was like very like pharmacist, hospital, like don't understand like this thing at all. And like I half the people that work in music don't understand it, so I can't fault them. So that's all kind of happening while at the same time in college, like I'm this UNL student and like get an invite to go play, this one random one-off service at Lincoln Berean with Brian Olson and Voda. And then 2 weeks later, they're like, hey, do you not want to go to classes? And like, do you want to go on this tour with us for 2 weeks? And I think make like $300. It was like a trial thing. So like I was doing it on like the cheap. And I was like, well, my rent is $200 and I'm going to make $300.
Let's go.
To go play music for 2 weeks. Like, am I gaming the system here? So like, I kind of had these dueling worlds sort of happening at once, where it was like, okay, like I'm pretty sure this isn't the path, but I was told this is the path. And I'm sort of doing this thing over here around the same time, kind of through the Voda connection, me, a producer, another fellow Nebraskan originally that lives just up the road from me here outside of Nashville, named Riley Friesen. Shout out to Riley. Really talented guy, worked on a bunch of stuff, dear friend of mine, played in Voda like 15 years before I played in Voda, despite only being like 5 years older than me. And it was like one of the first times I saw somebody that was from the same area I was in, who he moved to LA and then to Nashville. And I was this like 19, 20-year-old kid in the studio, like trying to, figure out what in the world am I going to do with my life. And he was like, dude, like, you're actually really good at this. Like, I think you could do this, like, what ended up being, like, producer-songwriter thing. And, like, he was recording a Voda record when I was just this, 19-year-old kid or whatever. Wow. And he was like, hey, come hang at the studio all week. Like, and so, like, we kind of, on a very small scale, worked on some other stuff there. And just kind of hit it off. And it was, like, an eye-opener of, like, wait a minute, this guy like went and did, like, he's doing the career that I'm like, I think this is what I want to do. And like, we all know being in these like kind of outside the box creative fields, right? Like just the possibility of knowing something exists. Yeah. When like my family, I love them, but like I decided to at first take a semester off of school, and then eventually like partially talking to like Riley as a producer and some people he connected me with in Nashville, and all these people in Nashville saying, and now I would advise a kid too, like, if you want to go be a music producer or songwriter or whatever it is, like, don't go to school for that. And we could talk about pros and cons of that, but like, there was something about seeing somebody that actually did the thing, that was kind of from where I was from, played in the same band I was in, to where I'm like, holy cow, like, I think this is possible. And like, that gives a young kid like just enough confidence to be like, all right, like, we can go get scrappy and do the thing.
Mhm.
So, you know, kind of fast forwarding, sort of did that, like playing in Voda, playing in cover bands, worked at a church part-time, recorded every crappy local thing I could. But Riley was so cool in that like 19 to 22 sort of time frame where he kind of just took me under his wing and sent me like a whole bunch of stuff to work on while he was in Nashville at the time. And like, you know, those first couple years were like the foundational, like getting my reps, tuning vocals a bajillion times, editing drums, like doing some of the grunt work sort of stuff of production, but like really honing those chops that are so foundational that like I couldn't do what I do now without like those years. And then at the same time, like he was so cool and gracious to where like all these people in Nashville, like who are actually legit in the industry, if they'd come to him and be like, hey, can you help me with blah, blah, blah? And he was too busy, he'd say, no, but I got this guy, Christian, you should hit him up. So I got married, moved to Nashville, fast forwarding a few years at 23. And I kind of had like all of these years worth of like relationships of people that I was like editing vocals for, doing demos for, doing stuff for. Like there was a reason to move to Nashville, and we could talk about should you move to Nashville or LA or not. And like, I have some thoughts on it, but like when I moved to Nashville, like it wasn't just coming in cold being like, I'm going to be the next Max Martin, Ryan Tedder producer. It was like, no, I actually am coming here with like a little bit of a thing, a little bit of a network, and so gracious to like Riley, Brian, like those guys to just like show me the possibility. And so, yeah, man, I mean, fast forward, I've been in Nashville 7 years now almost. Wow. It's been, you know, a good run of kind of doing the production, songwriting thing. Worked a lot in the Christian music world. I'm doing more in the TV film licensing space right now than anything else. Kind of started this YouTube thing earlier this year because I want to be an influencer.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Yeah. And so, man, like that's kind of like wrapping some of it up. I don't know if there's anything you want to riff on there, ask about, but like that's a little bit of the journey of getting here.
I just want to shout out the fact that just maybe 10 years ago, you could find a place to rent for $200 a month. I've been stuck on that since you said it, of like how that just seems so impossible right now.
So my Nebraskans are going to know the Colonel Mustard in Lincoln, Nebraska. There's probably about like 300 people that have lived at the Colonel Mustard over the years. Do you guys know what the Colonel Mustard is?
Is that in the bottoms or where's that at?
No, it's ninth and D, I think, 10th and D. And it's this like, it's one of the oldest houses in Lincoln. It's yellow. And there's like an amateur theater production that's like run out of the attic of it for years. Like it's a known thing.
Interesting.
And so like 5 of us lived in this house, but on Sunday nights in the summer, we would have to go get out of the house because the theater group would come in and like they would do these productions like in the attic and at the park across the road.
Wow.
And it was, those are fun times. Guy that kind of connected us, Adam Deitel, knew me in the Colonel Mustard days and spent some time over there. Like,
nice.
There's some people that might be watching this that spent some time at the Mustard.
That's amazing.
Man.
I lived in Lincoln for 3 years and never heard of it somehow.
I've never heard
I don't
of
know.
it.
But
Yeah,
I know where that's at though. I mean, that's kind of like, is that just south of the police station or?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm not going to throw shade on Lincoln, but like not the best part of Lincoln.
Sure.
Yeah. But the perfect, like 19 years old, like going to UNL, then quitting UNL. And I kind of started working out of a studio like just 2-3 minutes up the road from there called The Grid too. So like everything I did was just like right around there.
Yeah.
And like,
That's awesome.
you know, I the guy probably bought the Colonel Mustard for like his mortgage on it was this lawyer. Shout out to the lawyer who like never put a bunch of 20-year-old kids in a lease though for 3 years. Like, I don't know what he was thinking. But yeah, like his mortgage is probably $500 on it and had 5 kids paying him $200. He was probably doing great.
Heck yeah.
And,
Great investment.
and we were doing great too, we thought. So
Yeah,
that's
man.
amazing.
Yeah, you said something really instrumental, I think, to be an encouragement. But without guys like, you know, Brian or Riley in your life, like essentially you wouldn't be where you are today. And so I guess how have you, I guess, seen the impact that they've made, and how have you tried to implement some of that with people that look up to you maybe, and you're kind of pulling them along in the journey, or have you helped people in that sense, because you've seen the impact that Brian and Riley and guys like that have had on you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, like I said, just knowing that something that's a little unconventional is even a possibility. And then like not just knowing it's a possibility, but then to your point, like having somebody that's kind of been there and done that encourage you and say, no, like this is possible. And furthermore, like I think you might actually have what it takes. Like it's maybe not going to be easy, might be a grind, but like stay the course. Here's what it can look like. Like here's some of the ways you could actually make a living at this over time. Like it was everything for me. So to your point, like, I try to reciprocate that as much as I can, like on a, since we're tying Nebraska into all this, there's kind of been a handful of guys younger than me that have come from Nebraska to Nashville. A guy named Ross Grebe is one. Shout out to Ross, Harrison Boat, like some of these kids that are, I call them kids, but they're like 3-4 years younger than me.
Sure.
And they've approached me saying, hey, like, I know you're this guy that's like kind of like doing something. Like, can I talk with you? And like, can I even ask you? Like, can I ask you? And like, man, I love that conversation so much because
that's great.
Like, I was that kid, and I know because I lived it. Like, am I ever gonna be able to make enough money to whatever? Like, somebody will actually pay you to do fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Like, and I love helping connect the dots for people and just be an open book. Like I'll talk about pricing, money, that like contract structures. Like I think just being open-handed, right? Because like at the end of the day, like we're not on this earth for a long time. And like, I believe that like, the gifts we're given aren't for us to just hang on to and wrap up tight. And I don't necessarily know about you guys, but at least for me, like I'm a byproduct of people being open-handed and generous with me. So
sure,
that's so much of like what I want to be able to provide to other people. And like joking about wanting to be an influencer and start a YouTube channel. Like I have kind of started this YouTube channel earlier this year, and that was a lot of the motivation behind it. There's a lot of music content on YouTube. I'm sure there's a lot of film content on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to knock anyone doing the thing, but like there's a group of songwriter producers in Nashville who I look up to. And when I was that 20-year-old kid, I would have killed to hear something from the inside of, I think of 10 names, 20 names that come to mind that a lot of are friends of mine now. But like a lot of times people who are actually doing the thing are too busy doing the thing to then like,
for sure. Yeah.
Go make content about it. And because the content thing, as you know here, like we're doing this podcast, like it's this whole extra thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to try to find a way to bridge the gap and like share some knowledge from actually doing the thing, but also provide high quality content. And like, there's a lot of people out there. It's like, tell me if the video world is this way too, where it's like, hey, you are like, I respect the heck out of you as a YouTuber and content creator because it's a different skill. But like, if I'm really honest, when I go listen to your music, like just knowing what the bar here is in a Nashville or an LA, or like how good the songs that are churned out of here are on a daily basis that will never see the light of day.
Right.
And how good, like how freaking good the people are that are just like some of the songwriters C- songs, how good those are, that'll never see the light of day.
Yeah.
Like, when I have that knowledge, then I see some of the stuff on YouTube of like, here's how to make your mix sound pro. And I'm like, this just not trying to throw shade, but like this wouldn't stand here for a minute. Like that was part of my motivation is like to try to bridge that gap a little bit.
Yep.
And like really like give back to my younger self. Like,
for sure.
Just do that on a wider platform, bring a bunch of value to people.
I love that. I don't know if that's like a Midwest kind of thing where we see, like you were saying, there's those out of the box kind of jobs that we kind of dream of. We could be a optometrist, or, we can work at this company and climb the ladder. But then there's these like creative worlds that just seem untouchable, or, as a Midwesterner, we dream of, I like dreamt of being a pro skateboarder, or, I've dabbled in music and I loved the idea of producing, or, all these things, or being a filmmaker or a photographer. And can you actually get paid to do this? You can, absolutely. And I love that I've watched some of your videos. I'm not really in the producing world, but I love just how raw and honest and open and authentic you are on your channel, because a lot of these, I've grown up loving and respecting producers and watching the little content that was out there. Like you even go back to like the, early or late 2000s, and watching like the I don't even, honestly, what videos did I used to watch? Like DJ Mustard, like hip hop beats. Like I remember early on, or like, some of the EDM artists like Avicii or Zed, like they early, late, mid 2000s would put out stuff. And I would just watch this stuff and I'd be blown away. I'm like, how did they put out this song? And how did it become number one in the world? And, how did they get the snare sound? And I was so intrigued by that stuff. And what I love about your YouTube channel, although that was really fun to watch for me as a kid or, a young 20s, I really love that you bring them into this process. You don't like hide your chains or hide the plugins that you're using, or, like every producer is so protective over their sound, which I think there is a little bit of that. And maybe you have some pieces where you are a little bit more protective, but what I've seen on your channel is it's very like, hey, there's no fluff here. This is how we do it. You even get people into how you're recording, how you interact with the talent or the client. And it's just a piece that really inspires these 20-somethings that are looking up to you and look like your older self. And I just love that about your channel, about who you are. And again, I think it's this piece of being a Midwesterner that we really just are proud of, because we love giving back. We love helping people. We literally started this podcast to do the exact same thing. We don't get paid for the podcast. We just got our first ever sponsor after doing this for 4.5 years. But we love encouraging and showing people, there is more to these different kind of out of the box ventures that you can go on. You don't just have to, be a teacher or and you can, but there's more. And so I love that you bring people along in the journey. You're authentic, you're real, you're honest, and you're seriously one of the most talented producers I've ever met in my life. So it's just
thank
awesome.
you, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like a couple things to touch on with that, like the whole, like not, putting everything out there. Like there really isn't anything that I put on the channel that I'm like, all right, I'm going to show him this stuff. But then over here, like that's where I do the AI and the other guy comes in and like really makes it sound good. Right. Yep. Like, no, there is none of that bait and switch. And I think that's such a fear mindset in creative people. Like I'm sure this exists so hardcore in the video world too, where it's like, dude, my magic sauce is my preset. Yep. And if somebody else has my color grading preset, they're going to be able to do what I do. And dude, like, here's what I think is just funny. Like, I've seen this. So, like, I have given away, like, my exact vocal chain and vocal template on my YouTube channel. Yep. I've also sold that same exact vocal chain that I'm like, here it is. You can have it for free, but you can also go buy it over here for $89.
Sure.
And people still buy it, which is crazy, but they do. And then I've had people hire me to give them feedback on their songs and mixes where they go use my exact template. They go buy all the plugins and they say, give me feedback. And I'm like, this vocal sounds nothing like what it, like, how did you even make, like, good or bad? Like, that doesn't sound like what I would do with it. And I think people, like, tools are just tools, right? Plugins are just plugins. But like the artist or like the producer as like the artist, like what we do with those tools is what makes us unique. So like, I'm not afraid to give my settings out because nobody else is going to hear things exactly how I do. And like,
100%.
If I'm worried about being unique or whatever, like, no, like I can just rest assured and be confident in the fact that like my combination of life experiences and how I see things, hear things, whatever is what's going to give me my taste, and I'll use the tools accordingly. And like same thing with you guys in video, like your unique film style, you could give me, I know you could give me all your settings. And I mean, I would make something that looks like a turd. That's why I have an editor edit my YouTube stuff. But like that aside, like, I mean, nobody else can do what you do because you're the only one that sees video the exact way you do. You know?
For sure. Yeah, that's the toughest thing I think for being a creative. It's hard to just replicate your brain into someone else's brain. I think, growing in the last 6, 7, 8 years in the local church scene, helping other creatives take a camera, understand it, and then go start other businesses. That's been a big passion point for me in Austin because we just have seen that be successful in people's lives, and people can go make money using a camera, which is awesome. And I think yeah, it's just really, really a unique perspective on helping people see that way, which is really
Yeah,
cool.
man. And like to that point, you said a couple minutes ago of like, yeah, nothing wrong with like going and doing like normal jobs, but like there are these creative worlds that exist out there. Like, and I love Nebraska. We, you know, just went back from my brother's high school graduation, you know, a few weeks ago, but I do think there is something regionally, culturally, like I've genuinely been asked this many times. A very good buddy of mine, super talent, named Tim Halperin. He's a little bit older than me, but originally from Omaha.
Yeah, dude.
Now lives here in Nashville.
He's a G.
boy
We use
Tim.
we've used
Tim's
every single wedding song by him ever.
Yep.
Dude, he
insane.
slayed the wedding game. Tim's become
crushed
a
it.
good buddy. He's coming out with a new ad project on Music Bed, and we did some of those songs together.
Let's
and
go.
like for a couple white dads that live in the Tennessee burbs from Nebraska, we did some funky stuff. I'm pretty excited about.
Can't wait to hear it.
But
Dude, let's go.
Tim and I have compared notes on this a lot. Yeah, we're working together 2 days from now. We're working together Thursday and Friday this week.
Nice.
Always love working with Tim. Salt of the earth, dude. But like I've genuinely been asked many times, like, okay, like music producer, like can you make a living with that? And like I sometimes joke, I'm like, no, you actually can't. Or like I live on the streets, or yeah, I mean, but there's like you can make. I am more convinced than ever, and like in this internet age, like anything in the world can be monetized if you
for sure.
if you provide enough value, and what value is can be, you know, that can vary, but like if you're a comedian, the value you provide is entertaining people. If you're a business, like if I'm in the business of like when I'm a producer for hire, like I know the value I provide isn't like to an artist, if I'm wearing that role, because I wear a few different hats, but the value I provide an artist isn't how good the song is. There might be some artists out there that care how good the song is, but what they are paying me for, or what their label is paying me for, is the result of the song. Like most artists out there, I know them, I love them, like there's a little bit of vanity to them.
Yeah.
Like they want success, and they view paying me to produce them their song as I'm going to trade that money and hopefully the success or the notoriety or the moving my career forward I get on the other side. That like that they might not know that's what they're paying for, but deep down that's what they're paying for. And like I feel like that's a thing for like you guys as videographers. Hey, a business, they're not going to pay you $5,000, $10,000 for a video. They're going to pay you $5,000, $10,000 for the result of that video, right?
Right. Yep.
And so like if you're, you know, a young somebody, or not even a young somebody out there watching this, and you're like, man, like I want to go do something creative and outside the box. Like now more than ever, trust me, it's possible.
Yeah.
And like,
for sure.
you know, now having a 5-month-old myself, like my wife and I have started having these conversations of like, yeah, I don't want to be like the opposite extreme of like, well, I didn't go do the status quo thing, so like I'm just going to go encourage my kid to be a music producer. I'm like, no, like as a new parent, like I just want to be open and in tune to like whatever he finds interest in.
Yeah.
And then just go encourage the heck out of that. But I feel like if you're out there and have a dream of doing something of like, can that make money? Could I? Whatever, dude, like anything can turn into a career. It's just all about value and understanding like to a deep level, like the person I'm serving, what does that guy like want at his core or her core?
Yeah.
And how can I just serve that all day long?
Yep.
And man, I mean, that's the secret sauce to it. And if you figure that out, like you're going to be successful. And like as a new YouTuber, that's what I'm like becoming obsessed with figuring out. Like who is watching my videos and what does that person want? And how can I give them the answers to what they want? And just hit them with that all day long.
That's great.
If I'm producing for an artist, what do they want and how can I help them get that? If I am wearing more of the artist hat or composer hat and doing something for TV film licensing, a brand doesn't want to license my song because they think the song's cool. A brand wants to license my song for an ad because they want to go spend $1 million on an ad and make $20 million from it.
Right.
And they think that my song will help associate them with however they want to be associated with. So like, I think just starting to understand that, like that's a key to a lot of it right there. I don't know. It's something.
Yeah. That's amazing.
It's really good.
Clip that whole thing.
Yeah.
Clip
There we
that
go.
and share it a million times.
That's the pre-encouragement time. Just wait. Just wait. Just wait.
I'm gonna say it's a deep fake though. Like,
But really quick, you said something interesting, and I think it would really help our listeners understand. So obviously, you make a living truly off producing music. How much can you share, or so like, what does that look like as far as licensing deals, co-writing sessions, producing tracks, ownership, no ownership. Like, what does that look like? Explain that. Kind of like, is your income like fluctuating all the time? Do you have a consistency? Just like, what does that look like? And again, obviously this isn't just you put out a song and you made millions. It's been a grind for over 10 years. And you didn't just, again, move to Nashville and just start making money. You warmed a ton of leads. You had producer relationships. You, again, provided a ton of value and served the people before you moved. So yeah, how do you make money? How do you make a living? How do you provide for your family?
Like I said, I don't remember.
I live on the streets.
The streets of the burbs.
That fake Zoom background with the beautiful studio.
Yeah.
Where you're actually just you're just sitting on the side of the sidewalk in Nashville.
I'm telling you, it's just the Zoom background.
Yeah.
Wait till the person that owns that house finds out you're in there doing that.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, the good thing is around here, like I could probably walk into, I'm over my detached garage and like pick a detached garage in Nashville, and there's probably a studio.
Right. Yeah. No kidding.
So yeah, I mean, I could just like go, and there's a lot of those types of structures around here. No, love this conversation. I kind of wear a unique hat in that, like, so like I'm a producer for hire. I'm also a songwriter. We can talk about some of the differences there, although in today's world, those lines are kind of blurred.
Sure.
I do stuff for hire for clients, but then I also have like more of my own things that I have full ownership and control over. And then like even within some of what I do for artists, there's a bit of ownership and control that I typically still have. And that's like, so I like to think of it, you know, probably not a ton of music producers watching this, but if there are music people watching this, you'll know what I mean too. I kind of make short-term money, mid-term money, and long-term money. And the way I like to structure my business is always having a little bit of all of those plates spinning, but the eye on the prize for me is always in the long term.
Yeah.
And like that's just like, I feel, you know, I could go make a lot. I could go make a lot of quick bucks if I wanted to.
Sure.
And be miserable doing it. I have friends that make, you know, $200-300 grand a year producing crap songs that like will never see the light of day, and they're miserable for it. Like, they're basically they're doing that role like you're basically a highly paid, I don't know, like name a, you know, what's the worst job in the world
or something.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and side note about music, the people making the money are the lawyers. We'll talk about
right.
Because dude, this music industry thing is so contractual. Everything's a contract, and I pay my entertainment lawyer a lot of money, but like you pay her that money because like that one sentence could mean 50 grand or 100 grand or $1 million 10 years down the road. It's wild.
Right.
But yeah, I like short-term, mid-term, long-term money. And now more than ever, I am more interested in the long-term and kind of the mid-term. So short-term for me would be, you know, an independent artist, or sometimes even like an artist signed to a label writes me a check to produce them a song or mix the song. And it's very transactional. It's kind of trading your time for money, even though like I am doing a per project rate. And it's like, you know, I'm not cheap. A lot of good people around here aren't the cheapest in the world, but like there's a lot of people out there willing to pay you the money, again, with that value thing, to like go hand them a song. And like sometimes that's helping them write, but a lot of times, here's my song, go make it sound like a hit, whatever the heck that means. Go do the thing, make it sound produced. Or, hey, I have a fully produced track. Can I pay you X amount of money to go mix it? So like there's some of that. And yeah, like I said, you make a good living doing that, but you're always going to be trading time for money. Yeah. And if you kind of start to have a good lifestyle doing that, in order to preserve that good lifestyle, you have to keep trading the time for money, or hope that like, hey, you like go have a big hit as a producer, and then a record label, like, you know, a lot of the like, I say like blue collar label things, like Christian record labels are going to pay a producer like $5 grand a song. Your smaller LA pop labels are going to pay a producer $5 grand a song. All of that can be that. There's a lot of nuances contractually within that, because like I said, the lawyers always win. But like, you know, you can hope, all right, I go have a big hit, and then I can demand 10 grand a song or 15 grand a song, or if you're Ryan Tedder, like 50 a song. Like it gets to that level. Wow. But you're always trading time for money.
Right. With
that though, kind of the midterm money for me sort of starts to get into sync deals, licensing deals, just royalties in their various forms and fashion. So like what some of those royalties are for me as a songwriter and a producer is like licensing is a good example of like I go make songs for TV and film. What that typically looks like is not, I'm trying to think of the last thing I got this week was 2 spots for 2 different Netflix shows. Netflix didn't approach me before they're both trash TV like shows. Think Nick Lachey in a bathrobe. What are those trash shows Nick Lachey hosts? It was whatever that Perfect Match, I think. Opening song of the new season of Perfect Match is mine. It was like super attitudey girl thing, and that's not like I do a lot of things. They did not approach me and say, "Hey, will you score me a song for this?" No, we go make these songs and build these catalogs of songs that you can either sign like publishing deals, or if you're an artist, sign to a record deal. They own and control some of that, but we have people like some of my projects go to MusicBed. That's more of like a click to license. A lot of videographers like you licensing stuff on MusicBed. Like they pay out creators monthly. There's my main licensing rep is a lady friend of mine named Katie Jellin. Her company's called Honestly Good Music. I own and control all of that music, but she's going for more bigger budget licensing stuff. And like the budgets on those things can vary. Like an ad is going to pay a lot more than an in-show placement. Like ads on TV, generally $50,000 minimum, but divided by the amount of creators on it, divided by licensing reps getting their cut. So like maybe on a 50, you're making 10 to 15. Yeah. But like that Netflix thing, like you're going to make $1,000 divided by however many creators and the cuts and whatever. But like, that's kind of like the upfront fees can vary. It can be anything, everything. What's the intended use? How long is it going to run for? TV, online, like all, again, lawyers win. Am I right?
Yeah.
Because that's all negotiated. So there's that, but then what's cool is that there are performance royalties on the back end of those. So like if your song runs on TV a whole bunch of time, in addition to the upfront licensing fee, like a year down the road, you're going to see on your quarterly statements from ASCAP, BMI, or CSAC, like you're going to see some money from that, and those pennies can add up over time.
Yeah.
So that's some of the midterm money. Also streaming revenue. You hear these people out there and it gets a little nuanced. I'm actually literally, after we're done filming, making a video explaining this to the world.
Nice.
It might be out by the time this interview's out.
Yeah.
But you hear people say like Spotify doesn't pay anything. Well, Spotify doesn't pay some people anything, but like the streaming platforms pay other groups of people a decent amount. And I play in both these buckets. So Spotify and streaming doesn't pay the songwriters very well at all, but Spotify pays the sound recording owners. So basically, if I write a song called Mary Had a Little Lamb, I am forever the composer of that. If I go record my own song of Mary Had a Little Lamb, I then own the sound recording of that. If you go record Mary Had a Little Lamb, you own the sound recording of that. I still own the composition. So you kind of get those two different buckets.
Yep.
The sound recording owner, who is often the artist, or if the artist is signed to a label, they're making pretty good money off of streaming. On Spotify, per million streams, typically give or take $4,000. The songwriter is about $400 on that same million streams.
Wow.
So as somebody that like has my own artist projects, and then when I go produce a record for an artist or an artist signed to a label, you're dealing all on that sound recording side. I get points on the master, which is a percentage of that master, basically. Like I'm getting points on the master. So there is actually money made out there on streaming. It's just on this specific side of things and not on not on this side of things. So like then a whole conversation arises out there of like, I'm an artist. Should I sign to a record label or should I be independent? Well, like you have to think about that, right? Like, because when you are an artist that signs to a record label, you are handing them ownership of all this part of the pie.
Yeah.
In exchange for typically distribution, which meant like putting your music out there in Walmart or Target, but who buys music at Walmart or Target anymore?
Right.
Like
Boomers.
now any artist can go upload their music
Right.
to the same places Warner or Sony or Capitol can. And then radio promotion is the other big thing, but like radio is still kind of a driver, but like really like who our age is listening to the radio?
Right.
I mean, so it's a very fascinating time. I'm not anti-label, but I think it's now more advantageous than ever to be an independent artist. And even as a producer and songwriter first, like I've started some projects that like they started as writing songs for TV and film, and then we put those out to streaming, and then like a couple of them have gone viral on TikTok. And like I have my own projects that have hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners on Spotify that I fully own and control, or like me and the person I did them with, we own and control.
Yeah.
And that streaming money every month, like it adds up to be pretty good.
Yeah.
On the songwriting side, I'm not making great money from that, but on this side I am. So that's kind of some of the midterm.
Yeah.
And then long-term money in music. There's a few buckets of it, but catalog sales are, I think that's one of the coolest parts about the music industry. But like, there's been a lot of press out there of like Justin Bieber sold his catalog for $1 bajillion. And what's cool, and this is where I say, like, with music creators specifically, you have to be long-term minded. And like, when I go have the conversation with the young producers, like I tell them, like, figure out, even if you have to go make a buck to go pay your bills, like figure out how to go make that midterm money, because that midterm money turns into long-term money consistently over time.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, like music royalties, and like in that midterm, there's probably like 6, 7, 8, maybe even 10 different royalty channels that can all add together. It gets complicated and confusing. But if those are royalty streams that pay me out monthly or quarterly or annually, depending on what they are, that is nothing more than an asset that can be leveraged against. It could be sold. It could be bought. And there are companies out there, major labels in the last few years when money was cheap, venture capital firms that were swooping up these music catalogs like crazy because they're asset classes that aren't tied to, you know, Wall Street or the real estate market. So they're very desirable. And catalogs, at the time we're filming this, have cooled a little bit because money got a little more expensive. But like, there are times where, you know, like it's more complicated than this, but like catalogs were trading for 7, 8, 10 times multiples. So you think about it, like if your midterm money is making you $200,000 a year and that sells at a 10 times multiple, you just sold your music catalog for $2 million, and it's taxed at a capital gain, not ordinary income. But this is already boring people, so we don't talk about that.
That's so interesting. Though.
Dude,
but like that's why I say, like, just, you know, this isn't a music podcast, but like being aware of that midterm and long-term bucket and what that can turn into. Like, frankly, at this point in time, I'm not doing very much in this bucket over here because I built this bucket enough over here to kind of know, like, all right, like transparently, like I live fully off of this. This is bonus, and this over here someday is like big bonus. But in order to build this bucket, like, you know, some of my family, like when I had a baby earlier this year, I didn't work for 2 months and I kept getting paid. And, you know, some of my family, they're like, oh my gosh, like they thought I was a genius. Well, yeah, in order to build that up, I said no to
I freaking am, dude.
But said no to, you're saying no to cash in the short term and really betting on yourself long term. Like when I go write songs for TV and film, I just turned in one yesterday. Like that song may not ever make $1. It could make 6 figures. It could make 10 grand. Like you don't know, but that's part of the beauty of it too, is like if you're more interested in the process of just like working with who you like and doing great work and just doing it consistently over time, like knowing what the payoff could be, like, and you're just more interested in that long term than just like trading your time. Like I think that's the real magic sauce of then when better art starts getting made too. So
that's great.
You probably got more than you bargained for there. But yeah, I don't know. It's something.
That's so good. Who taught you all this? How did you learn all this?
I mean, man, so that is part of it, of just like living this, doing this day in, day out for years. Like I've been a songwriter signed to a publishing deal, and like and then I've been a songwriter out of a publishing deal. And when you see these 25-page contracts that are written in this legalese, and you're like, you know, when I joke and say the lawyers always win, like, you know, I get billed at $400 an hour and $40 an email from my lawyer.
Right.
But
yeah. Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it's no joke. You know, if she sees this, which she won't, she'll probably write me a letter to be like, you out of my pricing. No, but like that's pretty standard stuff you're dealing with over here. But like when you're doing those contracts, or every time you produce a song for a record label, it's a 15-page thing. There's a lot of creative people that like they don't take on that business, but like this, I love music, but it is a job at the end of the day, and it is my business. And boys, there are a lot of business. And so I'm like, there's a reason these venture capital firms are wanting to get into this space, because there's something here. So I feel like as a husband, as a dad, as a, you know, somebody doing this to keep the lights on in here, I need to be aware of all that stuff and just seeing these contracts, terms, all of that over and over. Like it's just educating myself on it. And, having people in my life who are, hey, maybe they're 20, 30 years ahead of me, asking, hey, like when you did that thing over there, what did that mean for you 15 years later?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Again, being more focused on the long term than the short term.
Yeah, that's really
Because
good.
that's how artists sign like crap deals. Like you hear these stories of an artist, like huge superstar, said, I got screwed by my record label. Well, they probably didn't. I'm not going to say they didn't get screwed, but like everything was probably right there in the 20, 30, 40 page contract.
Yeah.
But like, it might be, hey, we're going to give you $1 million. And some of these kids, they're like, holy cow, I'm rich, I'm set for life. But that million isn't actually the million you think it is. And then like when this project goes and makes 10 and they don't see any of it and that million's gone 5 years later, they're like, holy cow, I got screwed. So, you know, just you have to, music industry actually, like I'm surrounded by really good people. I choose to surround myself by good people. So like I don't typically do business with like many sharky people, but like you still you have to just kind of, you know, be thorough, be diligent, not take advantage of people. And with that too, like I've said, like I never want to screw somebody on the other end of a contract. Like we can be fair, we can make sure I'm protected, but like that's a line for me, man.
Yeah.
Like if I'm giving a contract to someone, like I'm like, if it's a producer thing with an independent artist, I'm not doing some bait and switch on there.
Right.
Like gonna be fair, because there's a lot that can go wrong. But yeah, man, I just by being in it and doing it, that's how I'd say
awesome.
I've learned all that stuff. So people are yawning now, or they're really interested. I don't know which.
Honestly, this is
great.
great. If you're into music producing, the last 15 minutes will probably change your life. If you are 19, 20 years old and you're trying to do this thing the long haul. I love the short term, midterm, and long term kind of vision there. That's all gold.
And I feel like that can apply to any business too.
For sure.
Like like are you guys like in the, you know, primarily doing videos for businesses, right?
Correct. Yeah. So that's actually this is a challenge for us because we are kind of sick at 6.5 or 6 years into this, trading our time for dollars and really trying to understand like what are some pieces. You know, we've talked about like shooting stock footage like before we even started this company, and like we just never did it. And I wish that we did, because some of the stock now is really incredible, but back then 6-7 years ago the stock was so bad. And I remember story blocks came out and I was like, this is epic. Like we're using some of the clips for like church videos and stuff, and I was like, we could do way better than this. Like we have an A7S II, we can go outside, shoot a flower in slow motion and like go shoot somebody walking through a field, and honestly would probably be making like a good consistent income. But you know, hindsight's 2020. Like we didn't do it, and we still haven't, and I still really want to, but we haven't. But anyway, so that's kind of some of that long-term stuff that I think about. And then the other piece is like licensing, so that's kind of a part of that. But then there's the other piece of trading the time for dollars. Like you only have so much time, and I think and we all believe here at Glory Visuals that time is the most precious commodity that we have. And you can't get it back. No amount of money. Like if somebody gave you $1 billion today, but you're going to die tomorrow, are you going to take the $1 billion? No. Like,
nope.
And so we're really on a new journey of Austin's kind of come across like a software program that we really fell in love with, that's helped our business and blessed our business and allowed us to get things in order and be really efficient with funnels and website and a community base and conversations where all our emails and text messages and everything that comes into our business goes into one home. So anyway, it's really been helpful for us. And we, as artists and musicians or filmmakers or photographers, we spend a lot of money per month on softwares that help us do AI things or licensing platforms like MusicBed or Artlist or, you know, you name it. We're paying, you know, a few $100 a month on these softwares. And we found something that is a lot less, and all of the things kind of live within this one software. I'm not trying to promote it or sell you on it, but I'm just saying like this kind of thing that we figured out, or Austin really figured out and has dove into it, being able to offer something like that as a product to people, and then running ads and being effective with that stuff. And we're taking a course right now on to be better at marketing, like real marketing, Meta, Instagram ads, just building funnels and workflows for, people to really generate leads in a real way. Cause we've been word of mouth or just put out good work and people reach out, but that you can only grow so much in that. And so we're trying to level up right now. We're trying to get on your level, bro. So true. We're on the way, and we're going to get there in Jesus' name. But I do have one question that will kind of switch gears a little bit, and it's a little bit more fun. But I want to hear what was like the mind shattering email that you got, like, hey, Christian Hale, I want to work with you, and you were just like blown away. Yeah. So one, that's like the first time this happened, this artist or musician or whatever wanted to work with you, and it was just really, really exciting for you. And then two, I want to know maybe just a little bit now, more in your mature days of working with big artists at large, just kind of what is some of that working relationship and how like, I don't know, is it impacted your producing journey?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like I've had like a lot of small series of moments of that. Like,
sure.
Like I said at the beginning of this, like I grew up in church, grew up in Lincoln Christian. Like a lot of what I've done kind of up to this point has been in the Christian music space. So like I've kind of now at this point like met or written with or produced for like something with like a lot of the Christian artists and like some of the legacy people at this point. I'm trying to think though, probably on a small scale, and like I never worked with him directly, but like back in those Nebraska years where I was like doing a bunch of stuff with Riley, he did a worship record. It was fairly small worship record, but for Stephen Christian of Anberlin. And sick. I did some like co-production, edited all his vocals, like worked with Riley like pretty hands-on in that whole record.
That's right.
And Anberlin was like one of my favorite bands in middle school. Stephen Christian signed my Motorola Razr.
Let's go.
And so like, I mean, I was still like 20 at that point, like living at the Colonel Mustard, I think. Like, I mean, I was still a kid in Nebraska. And so I was like, holy cow, I have hacked life. So like that was kind of one of the first bits of that. And then like, I feel like I've just had series of those moments over and over. And
what have been some of your favorite, I guess?
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I feel like it almost happens so frequently now. And even like in Nashville,
just name drop, bro. I'm asking you to name drop.
No. You're good. I mean, like there's all these people. There's all these people that are like big songwriters or producers that like the world as a whole like wouldn't know who they are, sure. But like nerds like me are such super fans over that like when you get to like sit in the same room as fill in the blank, like it's like holy cow. I'll try to think on like if there's been one that was like that one really blew my mind, but like I would say when the second part of your question, we'll see if I can't come back to that. What are some things you've learned? Like, man, I think at the end of the day, like any bigger name person, any well-known person I've worked with, like they're just a person at the end of the day, man.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's like there are certain levels where you get to where it's like, okay, like this person's life is very dictated for them, like the day to day. It's very scheduled, but like even within that, like I think that I've tried my best, and I think I've actually done a pretty good job of at all levels of like, man, it's somebody that comes in the studio, like give them the same level of care and attention.
Yeah.
And with that too, like what's fun about music and what's frustrating about music is 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. Like I could go write what I think is the best song of my life right after we're done here. Mm-hmm. And 20 different people around Nashville who supposedly know what a hit sounds like could tell me this is the biggest song of your career. And that thing could flop and do nothing.
Yeah.
And then meanwhile, like I've even had a couple recent experiences of this, of like that thing I did in 3 hours, even though it's not 3 hours, it's 3 hours plus however many years of experience.
Right. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
That thing goes on to have this whole life that you're like, wait, what? Like that thing is what they're liking.
Yeah.
But like with that, like I try to keep that in mind with like, I've kind of been through this thing long enough now to where I've seen the young kid come in and be the nobody artist who was green as can be, and then go through that full cycle of like, wait, like they're somebody now. Wow. And so like, I kind of like looking at that on the other end of the spectrum too, like trying to treat everyone the same, because like the big guy over here who everyone knows, like they got the challenges and they have the same problems and frustrations and whatever as you and I do.
Yeah.
And then like they're not all that different than the young kid, but then like the young kid like might become the big star someday.
Right.
And so like when you can't know like how things are going to shape up, like I feel like all you can do is like just bring your best to the process and the day to day. And when I'm working in the room with someone, known or unknown, I think like that's seeing the humanity of like some bigger people I've looked up to. You know, one that was fun for me was Brandon Heath. I was a really, really big fan of Brandon Heath's music.
Sick.
I remember I feel like I went to like 17,000 weddings and like middle school where his like Love Never Fails song was played, and like they play that song at church all the time.
Yeah.
And Give Me Your Eyes and I'm Not Who I Was. I remember a buddy of mine burned me that's like those songs on a CD, and I was such a fan of him. And then Brandon, 2 or 3 years ago, like I wrote and produced I think 3 songs on his last record and have another one on his upcoming record coming out. And he's become a good buddy. And like, yeah, that's one that was just like again, like maybe not the biggest artist out there, but like one that for me personally was it's kind of like the Anberlin thing of like, whoa, like I listened to these couple of songs so much, and like now this guy is a friend. But then, like I said, you go through that process, and it's like, wait, but like this person's just a dude too, So like, don't like just be yourself and be real, and like that's typically how those types of people warm up to you, you know.
Yep, that's amazing. I do have one more question kind of in that vein of fun. What's like your most streamed song? Like, do you have one that's just like blew up, like kind of like you were saying, you know, you couldn't believe this one took off, but it did, and it's got millions of streams? Or is there a certain artist or collaboration or collective song that just really did well?
Probably the best example of the most streamed song, and I was just looking at the TikTok analytics on this literally yesterday. It's crazy. On TikTok alone, I think this song has been played like, I think it's like 350 million times and 200 times on Instagram. It's crazy. And then I think like Spotify, like near 20 million. But like this was one of those like talk about my own project things. I have this project like kind of originally started as total side thing called Outskirts, and like back to that ownership piece. This is where like having ownership of this stuff becomes really valuable.
Yeah.
But like, it's pretty common. They call them sync camps. Sync is like the Nashville, LA slang for synchronization, syncing a song to video. So like it's the other end, like making songs for guys like you, basically.
Yeah.
And you know, you do these sync camps where you pair up in a room, and this was over COVID, and I remember it's 4/20/2020. So it was weird time in the world and a weird day. I was not partaking in 420 things, by the way.
Right.
I don't do that genuinely, but but like the world had been shut down for a few weeks, and did this. There was this virtual sync camp, and everybody's like, "Can you write songs over Zoom?" And me and my buddy Brandon, who's the other half of one of my projects, Outskirts, and this girl who was actually in Nicaragua at the time, we wrote this dumb little song called Let's Do This in 45 minutes, start to finish over Zoom. And it was originally for an Xbox brief, they call it. So it was like, hey, Xbox is looking for a song like this, and that. They want it to sound like this, not like that, lyrics about that. So we wrote this song called Let's Do This from like 10 to 11 a.m., and then at the end of these days, there's a song share where people are like, hey, everybody at the camp, we're going to go play our demos of songs. But like the producer secret is like, you don't turn in a demo at those things. You try to go be stressed and slam out like what is the fully finished thing. And at 5 p.m. that day, I turned in what is the fully finished version of this song, Let's Do This. And we just kind of threw it up on streaming at the time, like our decently small little Outskirts thing. And that project is just kind of really surprised me and Brandon. I think we have like 350,000 monthly listeners on Spotify now, which is insane. Like, again, talk about not knowing, like there are artists that record labels are spending multiple 6 figures on that don't have those kinds of numbers.
Yeah.
And like, I say that humbly of like not knowing like what will work and what won't work. Like that's where you just have to, I think, like give the best you can to that day and not get concerned with the results almost.
Yeah, that's great.
And then just like move on. So like this dumb little song, Let's Do This, starts like popping off on Instagram Reels and TikToks. And then like the streams kind of start going crazy. And then like I said, like literally like 250 million streams on TikTok, which like the calculations are a little different than like they are on Spotify, Apple.
Sure.
But like that was definitely like the biggest like this was a dumb little thing, but like then to get to own, like remember we talked about those 2 buckets? Like I own like the buckets on that.
Yeah.
So like that's a lot more valuable than me writing a song. Like if I am just a songwriter on a song for a big artist, like a buddy of mine was nominated for a Grammy for Michael Bublé. And he wrote one of Michael Bublé's song that either won or got nominated for a Grammy. And he's like, yeah, I made less than $5,000 on that thing.
Dang.
Because he only co-owned that songwriter bucket.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a song at radio. It didn't get syncs, licenses.
Yep.
And so like that's the bucket of people that's like Spotify doesn't pay anything. But like remember that other bucket, like sometimes the sexiest things like aren't necessarily like the things that pay you the best.
Yeah.
And vice versa. So, but Let's Do This has like definitely been like the biggest surprise thing and like kind of jump started with me and Brandon, the other half of Outskirts, being like, wait, are we like a band now? And like, really in the last, and Brandon toured and played guitar for like Florida Georgia Line and was signed to Keith Urban. Like he has a real background, like as like a front man. And so we're just like, well, like we recently did a visual rebrand, go check out Outskirts. We make like a lot of our songs are like for sports, of like all the sports networks have used this. We did a custom song for the Titans, like Tennessee Titans. And Dude Perfect uses our stuff a lot. It's totally that thing.
Yeah.
But totally. But Let's Do This is that was like such a surprise.
Yeah. So
like,
what is a crappy little 1 hour Let's Do This little thing? Like what have you made from that song? Like rough, like over, like.
Yeah, I mean, I know just on streaming alone, I think I've made 50 grand from it.
Wow.
Maybe 40.
Sure.
But then licenses a lot more than that too. And then on the songwriter side, more than that. I mean, that's probably been a 6-figure song total.
Yeah.
Like you have to look at it like if there's 3 writers on a song.
Yeah.
Then like the writers get split up, and then if there's publishers, like the math gets very mathy.
Sure.
But like that's definitely like all in. That's been a 6-figure song.
That's
and
amazing.
I've gotten a good chunk on that. And yeah, I mean that little thing just streams every single month.
Yeah,
I love it.
So it's been weird, and like we didn't necessarily get paid great from the TikTok.
Sure.
But and like the Instagram reels, although I tried fighting somebody on it, and love you, DistroKid. But I'm not throwing shade at DistroKid, but I am. But it like what it did for the streaming, and then the other songs that again like you fully own and control. Like it's cool little thing.
Yeah.
So.
No, I love I feel like there's a recurring theme as we chat, which is interesting that we're chatting with so many artists in the music space, because we never had up until like the last 3 episodes, and now it's like every episode, like we did Tony Anderson, and then we did Dave and Ryan from Names Without Numbers, and now we're having you on, and it's just cool to see like this principle, this recurring theme, and something that you mentioned of like you're not going into that song trying to make a hit that's going to be a 6-figure song. You're just being an artist. You're creating things on a consistent basis. You're putting in the grind. You know, I love what I think is so cool about your story is although of course there's been ups and downs, it seems like it's been so organic of a journey because you haven't lost sight of the art. Obviously there's always going to be business, there's logistics, there's legalities and contracts and all of that stuff that you have to pay attention to, because at the end of the day, it is a business. You can't just get so consumed in the art that you forget about how to, send invoices and stuff. That's very important.
Right.
But you have to maintain sight of the art and why you're creating it in the first place. And that honestly has been a big reason that we haven't, I think, created or scaled as much, because I think in our industry, at least, there's maybe not as many opportunities, because most of what we're doing is for a specific company. So there's not many opportunities to like repurpose a video for different companies outside of stock.
Right.
And I think that, where was I going with that? Just the long-term income, and the way that a lot of people scale in our industry is that they'll just kind of water down their services and they'll create, this is how we do a video. It's the same template every time. We do these types and lengths of videos. And that's just not why we got into this.
Yeah.
We want to be artists and we want to be creative. And so I'm just curious real quick before we move on, as you've, I'm sure a lot of what you do now, clearly, as you've spoken about, is business focused. You're having to obviously make sure that what you're doing is going to turn into income.
Yeah.
But on the art side, how are you continuing to stay inspired? How do you avoid burnout? That's something we've talked about several times on the show before. How do you stay creatively energized as an artist?
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that question. And kind of point on something before when you're like, when you set out to say like, I'm going to write a hit today, like that buddy of mine, his name's Benji Cower, big songwriter in the Christian world. We were working together last week and we were working with like a brand new baby artist and they were feeling pressure from like a manager to like, you got to go write the big hit. And Benji said to them, and it's so true. He's like, literally by saying you want to go write the hit, that's like the way to not go do it.
Yeah.
And like the counter to that too, like I know we're talking about like, oh, Christian, you're so awesome, blah, 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 blah. But like I have had like, especially like in the Christian radio game of like, you know, these artists will go write 50, 100 songs to pick one radio single.
Wow.
And, you know, working with all the like super talented writer producers or whatever, you know, and these people who are supposed to be these smart people at record labels who can like go, you know, hear a hit or whatever is like, this is the one we're going to go spend the money to go promote on to radio. And on that songwriter side, where you do make your money, one of the main places you make it is on the radio side. So in that bucket, radio is important. In the Christian music world, like a radio number one pays like 30 grand a writer. In the country world, it's like 300 grand a writer. In the pop world, it's like $1 million a writer. So like, it's not like in the Christian world, we're talking like massive money, but like, you know, big enough. And like I had, I think over a 3 year time frame, like 7 or 8 radio singles. So like I think seven or 8 times, like I was the one song with 7 or 8 different artists that beat out the other 100 songs and was told like, this is going to be the big hit. And like 7, 8 times, like just kind of puttered out on the charts, you know? And I think like, you know, you could be discouraged about that. Or you could look at it and be like, well, you know what? Like I did good work, but like those reminders, like, some of the, we'll call it failures or whatever, like has just reminded me of being like, no, dude, like you can't just go in here and poop out your song and then hand it in. You're going to go make X amount from it.
Yeah.
Like it's kept me humbled and grounded in like truly all we can control in the creative fields. And like you guys, it's a little different when you're doing stuff for businesses, but like all we can control is how we spend our time and who we work with and the intention and focus and care that we bring to that.
It's great.
And like literally we can't control what people think or how well it does or how well it doesn't do. So like some of those failures have like truly grounded me in that of like, cool, if that's all I can control, then I am going to, and this like kind of starts to get into like some of your actual question of like, I'm going to be hyper focused on like making sure every single day, like I enjoy the day and enjoy who I'm working with. Yeah. And like with the avoiding burnout and that kind of thing, like I think that's a lot of it. I think that, for me, like there's more to life than work. I love work. I love music. I love being out here. But for me, like I say out here, like, because like I said, like my studio is detached garage over our house. But like it's a pretty like 10 to 5 business hours. And I go in at lunch for like 45 minutes to an hour on a normal day. Like I'm out here probably 6-7 hours a day max, but like, and pretty hard. Like at the end of the day, I'm done. And like, man, having a kid now, like, I'm like, if the time I'm not spending out here is productive and focused, like I'm not going to miss out on my 5-month-old growing up. I've seen the change like so fast in such a short period of time. I'm like, I'm going to go in there with my wife and kid and go do that. But like I see in the music world and creative fields, like people are really bad with balance, right? Yeah. Like I'm obsessed with the craft, so I'm going to just go work, create, blah, 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 blah. And then, they get burnt out.
Yep.
And like, I think kind of piecing some of those things together, like if at the end of the day, like we can't really control results, we can just control like how we spend our day, who we spend it with, the amount of focus we bring. Yeah. Like it's not a 1 + 1 = 2 game. Therefore, like 1 + 1 will not always equal 2. Sometimes 1 + 1 can equal 0. Sometimes 1 + 1 can equal 1,000. Yeah. And a lot of days it does equal 2, but not every day. Kind of just averages out. So I think if you can have that mind in a creative field, then like you don't have to stretch yourself out and strive so hard. Yeah. To like, I got to go in here and grind because I'm desperate and whatever. And then a lot of times your art reflects that, right? Yeah. Like you guys know, like, the stressed edit, rush film, like Is that the stuff you're usually the proudest of? No. Like, can you do it because you put in the reps? Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
But like, I think just remembering, like, there is more to life than work. And if we work in a creative field, like kind of going back to some of the like working outside the box, like if part of why I got into that is to like afford myself time and flexibility to be able to travel or go out to lunch or, you know, I would say sleep in, but I got a kid. So I'm up at 6 every day.
Feel that.
But like, why? Yeah, you know, but like, why would I not? Like, why would I have all this freedom to then just, I know my studio looks beautiful and all, but like, why would I sit in this 14 by 20 room above my garage sun up to sundown every day? Like, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
And so by going out, I feel like I get rejuvenated by living life and hanging out with friends and taking breaks. And like, man, a lot of times, like, that's when song ideas come.
Yeah,
And like,
for
then
sure.
it's like, I get my voice memo out and I'm like, gotta get back in the studio and can't wait. Then you hit it hard and with focus. So
Yeah.
that's
really
some of
good.
what I do. More to life than work, man. Like, and at the end of the day, like, we're here a short amount of time. Our working years are, you know, maybe 40, 50 years if we're lucky.
Right.
Like, you know,
Is there
like on the long end.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Go ahead. No,
I was
you
gonna-
go.
I was just gonna ask, is there like a spot that's like your aha spot, like when you're pooping or in the shower, or you know, is there, or is it just kind of whenever?
It's I mean, there's been many a bathroom fans
Yeah.
of my voice memos, but you know, one bodily function or the other. I mean,
Right.
it inspiration hits at weird times,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
like I'm not like, I love the art and I love the business. I'm not like an overly artsy artist of like, I gotta go have my incense and my
Yeah.
so like, one thing I do actually like about Nashville, some people don't like this. I do like it kind of per what I just talked about, but like songwriting sessions are very 10 to 2.
Hmm.
It's a very like, and maybe it's 11 to 3, maybe it's 10 to 4, maybe it's 10 to noon, but like it is we're going to work late business. We're going to work business hours and we're going to spend time with our families in the morning and the evening and not let this thing overtake. And yeah,
Yeah,
like some
that's
people
great.
don't like that structure. That's cool. I like the structure of like, that's pretty assumed.
Yeah.
And for me, like I just balance how much I'm taking on at any given time. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
yeah.
We've tried to,
Inspoken hit.
yeah, we've tried to
Go.
be really protective of those evening weekend hours. I don't know,
Gotta
like
be.
Mhm.
you probably didn't know this, but we just cut out weddings over the last year and a half. So
Why do
just-
you do that?
so
What was the thought?
yeah, I mean, a lot of it's what we were talking about. You know, I have 2 kids now, and Saturdays are very important. And because we're in the corporate space, we're working, you know, 8 to 5 Monday through Friday with a lunch break,
Yeah.
and we tried to keep it structured that way so that we could protect our evenings with our friends and families and kids and wives and all of that stuff. And there was a lot of other reasons, but the big one was just we didn't want to have 2, 3, 4 months of the year every single Saturday we're working 14 hours. It wasn't healthy for our lifestyle.
Yep.
That
worth
and
it.
a plethora of other reasons, but that was a big one for sure.
And to my time point that I made earlier, it's like, honestly, like you couldn't probably pay me $15,000 for a wedding anymore. Like
Yeah.
we were
So
we were
true.
toying around the idea of like this really big wedding. It was like a over $20,000 proposal. So we're like, maybe we'll do one for 20 grand, you know, but
Yeah.
even then, like it just doesn't feel worth it because
No.
of the time that we're losing with our families and with, you know, those precious summer Saturdays that we only have, you know, 3 months of the year
Yeah.
to
Dude,
go swimming or go fishing or go relax with our
Uh-huh.
family. And so, yeah, it's just, you got to find what works for you and your lifestyle that you're trying to do. But I love that we all collectively obviously value our families, our kiddos.
Yeah.
I'm about to have a kiddo, by the way.
Let's go.
I knew that, dude. It's when is that happening?
Yeah, so October, we're still unsure. We switched midwives, so we're unsure of our actual due date, but it's between October 29th and November 3rd. So somewhere in that time frame, I'll have a baby boy, and his name is Leo, and we're
Shout out
we're-
Leo.
dude, we're
I love
so
it,
hyped.
man.
So
I was, you know, I mean, we can talk about this in Austin, you know, if you've done this twice, you know way more than I do, but like I was pretty nervous about it because like, you know, my wife and I, like we worked hard to like build a lot of like talking like that kind of midterm bucket. Like we built that up. She has a web design business where she has recurring revenue with every client that signs on. So like we had like a good little flexible thing. And I was like, how is life gonna get affected? And like I was scared about it, and like at the same time I couldn't conceptualize like there's gonna be this kid who I've never met, and I'm like, everyone tells me I'm gonna love him more than blah 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 blah, but like who is this thing? And like and transparently, like for my wife and I both, like right when he came out, it wasn't this instant, oh my gosh, this is this missing link. Like it was like a day or two, like continual of getting to know, but like in those first couple of days of like, oh, okay, like this was a stranger at first, and I wasn't, prepared for that, but like love the guy, wouldn't trade him for the world, all of that. But like I actually feel like creatively, like kind of with what we're talking about right here, man, it's made me so focused, and I feel like I am not getting less work done, and I was pretty focused with my time before, but like I feel like I am creating some of my favorite stuff I've ever created.
Wow.
And I'm more focused than ever before, because it's just like all the BS, anything that's like, maybe I would have done that, but like wasn't pumped about it. Like, ain't got time for that anymore.
Yeah.
And like,
so great.
Austin, I'm sure you know that. So, yeah, I mean, and you've already made a big decision around that with doing weddings, right? And like, I bet then as both of you have kids, like you're probably going to be trying to one up each other of like, not wasting time, or if we're doing it, it's got to be all these stars that have to align. So man, it's going to be an exciting phase, and creatively for me, it's actually continued to be a really good thing.
Yeah.
So it's awesome.
Well,
Absolutely.
This episode has been encouraging already, but I would love to go to my favorite thing ever on this pod, this segment called Encouragement Time.
Encouragement time. Encouragement time.
Oh, it never gets old. Welcome to Encouragement Time. This segment is all about encouraging you to make you better, to help you think bigger. And today, Christian is going to encourage us.
I'm first going to encourage you. Do you see that little subscribe button and the notification bell?
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I'm going to encourage you to click that thing. Get the Glory
Shouts out.
Boys some love.
Come on.
And then you can go to my channel and unsubscribe.
No, you're at like 2K right now, so you got to keep it going.
I know. Yeah, and so like, okay, this is actually a good little segue.
Yeah.
I mean, I started this YouTube channel 5 months ago. I'm at 2,000 subscribers, and the encouragement I want to give to you guys is like kind of twofold things that apply so well to each other, and I have like had no choice but to kind of get a grasp of this, like doing the weird music thing that I do. But consistency over time is like so freaking underrated in our society today. I see this with music, and like now, like we've joked that I'm an influencer now, influencing the people. No, never. If I ever call myself an influencer, just like delete this interview and be like, he sold his soul to the YouTube devil. But no, man, and I'm having to live this as like starting a new venture with YouTube. Like I've been at the music thing for a while and I have the knowledge, but like I'm a 5 month in baby YouTuber. So like I've had to put my money where my mouth is here. I see this with artists that come in, like they want a hit, like they want a song that just quote blows them up. Or, in the content world, like people think the answer is just a viral video. Am I right? Like if I could just have that viral video that just quote blows me up, then everything is going to be there. Like, and all the world's problems are going to be solved. And like, man, like there truly is no substitute for consistency over time.
That's right.
And like you kind of pointed out in my music career, like I've had ups and downs, but like the consistency of now doing this thing, like producing, writing, like all kind of various forms and fashions of it for 10 years now has allowed me to build the skill set to like, when I get the bigger opportunities, I'm confident, like before I even go in of like, I'm going to nail this thing.
Yeah.
Not in an egotistical way, but from I have done this thing over and over and over and have gotten just a little bit better. And I want to continue to just get a little bit better.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and I've seen this in the music world, it's like the person that wins the lottery, right? What happens to a lot of lottery winners that have no financial literacy? They go broke in no time.
Yeah.
And if like a piece of if you are like new to YouTube, let's say, or let's say that you're a young videographer out there that loves what Glory Visuals does, or you want to be a music producer, songwriter, and you think, oh man, I just got to get a quick hit and shoot up real quick, then I'm gonna be set. Like, man, if that happens, I've seen it work out okay-ish for some people before, but man, a lot of times That's like handing the lottery winner, the lottery winner all the money and they don't know what to do with it and they get broke. Like there is consistently just like getting a little bit better at your craft over time. Nebraska football reference, Matt Rule says, day by day. How do you like that here from Tennessee?
Let's go.
There, that day by day, daily, just committing yourself to the process and getting more interested in the process than the results. And then kind of with that too, you guys seen he's kind of does some faith-based stuff, business coach guy named Myron Golden on YouTube. Have you seen Myron stuff?
I don't think I have.
Mm-hmm. Oh, dude, go check out Myron. He's big for mindset. He's a former pastor, knows the Bible inside and out, and blends the Bible. Like he has a whole thing where he's like, I base my whole business model on King Solomon's business model. He was the richest dude in the world. Like wise stuff, man. Yeah. Really, really cool. And I have a couple buddies that have done like his very high ticket coaching program. He sells like $50,000-$100,000 coaching programs. Wow. But Myron talks about this success formula that's like really stuck with me. And then in true Myron fashion, he relates it back to creation and Garden of Eden. Fascinating. Wow. But he talks about, and this goes the consistency thing. He's like, the success formula in life, I believe, because God set it up this way, goes this way: be, do, have. He's like, in other words, having is a byproduct of doing, and doing is a byproduct of being. So like what does that mean? Okay, so I'm a young videographer out there who just got my first camera, and I want the business Glory Visuals has with that sick office and the John Elway and that shiny sign and the Mario. And I want to be able to say no to $20,000 weddings. People go straight to wanting the result. Or, hey, I want as many hits as Ryan Tedder or Max Martin as a music producer, or I want as many views as Mr. Beast gets on his video. Yeah. It's human nature, right? We all jump to the have. I want as much money as blah, 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 blah. Mm-hmm. We all jump straight to the have, but usually aren't willing to do the things, or really, to distill it down further, be the person who does the things to then yield the result, right? Yeah. And so with that too, like, a funny example, but like losing weight, like, losing weight's a struggle for a lot of people. Losing weight's actually easy. Like, burn more calories than you consume, be in a calorie deficit, like however you choose to do it. Scientifically, like, you will not defy the laws of physics or science or biology, whatever form of science. Yeah. You will lose weight if you're in a calorie deficit. Yeah. Okay, if it's that easy, then why do people struggle to lose weight? Like, if that's their thing. Because they want the result without doing the action, or furthermore, being the person who does the action consistently over a long period of time, right? And so like, you kind of start putting all this together. Like, I feel like the magic sauce for me, and like, I've really started doing this lately, when I see somebody that has a result that I aspire to, if it's that YouTube channel or that music producer or whatever, like, I want to encourage you guys, like, young videographer, if you want to do what Glory Visuals is doing and you want to be the next Glory Boys or the Glory Girls or whatever, like, don't just look at the results. Get way more obsessed with like who that person is at their core. And as a natural byproduct of who they are at their core, what are the things they do consistently? Because those results come from that. And like, I feel like in the faith world, like, you hear like the grace zone, like what somebody's grace or calling or some of those things are. Yeah. And like, to me, like, practically speaking, like, whether you're a faith person or not, like, I feel like there just is something of like, if you genuinely at your core, like, become the person who, like, I am like, I'm living this with YouTube. Like, I am committed to like doing the YouTube thing. And with that, like, what I said is I am going to do a minimum of one long form video a week for a year before I even make a judgment on it. It doesn't matter if one person listens or not.
That's great.
I'm committed to doing that at my core. And as a result, I'm going to do the things to then hopefully yield those results. So man, like, putting all that together, consistency over time, not wanting the quick hit, having as a byproduct of doing, but doing really at its core is a byproduct of being. That's what I want to encourage you guys with. Yeah. And hopefully that helps someone out there.
That's amazing.
That helped me immediately.
Yeah, that was sick. I needed that.
So good.
I'll send you an invoice for it.
Yeah, just send that over.
You got our email. You gonna tack on the lawyer fees to that one? Or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dang, dog.
Yeah, $40 an email, and then the invoices on those emails, dude. It's like, dude, the line item describing the email is longer than the email. It's so savage. You gonna argue with your lawyer on a bill? It's
Right,
dude.
That's amazing.
Oh my word.
Sick. Well, where can we real quick while we're talking about your YouTube channel and the consistency? I love everything that you just said.
Yeah.
Tell our listeners where we can find you on YouTube, Instagram, anywhere you're active that you actually want
Yeah.
people to go follow you.
Yeah, I mean, if you're on YouTube, you can go to Christian Hale Official, not Christian Hale Unofficial. Some punks already had Christian Hale like all that was done. So I went with Christian Hale Official.
Posers, dang.
Yeah, so Christian Hale Official is my YouTube channel. That really is like some of the music specific content we talked on here. Like a lot of it is what people I'm finding or liking to see is like a lot of like hands-on, like actually in the computer, but I am. Clearly you saw like I love the business of this, so I am going to be bringing more of that content coming down the pipeline too. So like if you're into that kind of thing, that's over there. My website, christianhale.co though, will kind of shoot you to a handful of different places. So, like I said, I do a bunch of different stuff. Me as a producer, songwriter, like you can find reels of music of stuff I've written, produced, and mixed over there. If you just want to go check out some of that. I have like some of my different artist projects, one of which is like an ambient instrumental licensing music sort of thing that you can find on MusicBed. Shades of Tony Anderson, who is the best to do that stuff, like former guest. Go
Is
check
that
out
Bric-a-Brac?
Tony's episode.
Sorry to interrupt.
No, Bric-a-Brac
Oh.
is that's called Christian Wade. Although I have done a bunch of stuff with Bric-a-Brac.
Yeah.
Derek's a friend of mine.
We licensed a Bric-a-Brac song way back, I remember.
Yeah,
And
Christian
you're like,
Wade.
hey, that's my song.
No, I mean it's like it's funny how that happens. And like actually, one of the Nebraska football, the Chasing 3 series, I was watching one of those because I still keep my pulse on that, and like 2 of my songs are in the episode, and the guy Jay Lit who does all that stuff, I sent him a message and was like, "This is so random, but you probably have no idea I'm from Nebraska, but you've used my stuff," and so that does happen sometimes. You hear your songs out in the wild and don't know, so. You can kind of find some of my various projects, Outskirts, all that there. But
Cool.
Christian Hale Official for the YouTube, christianhale.co for the site.
Sweet. Yeah, we'll
Love
make
it.
sure to put all those links in the description.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you go check out Christian's work.
Yeah.
Give him a subscribe, hit the
Yeah.
bell, all the YouTube things. Help this man grow his channel. I mean, I have no doubt it's just gonna keep
It's the
going
only
up
time.
exponentially from here because of that consistency over time.
Mhm.
Yeah, love all of that. In interest of time, don't want to take too much of your time because we're we're
We went long,
approaching
boys.
a longer
It's fun.
episode here. But
Yeah.
is there
Sorry.
anything else that you wish we'd asked about or that you want to talk about? We had a project highlight. We already kind of highlighted some of your projects, but if there's
Yeah.
anything else that you're feeling you want to touch on, anything else you'd leave with our listeners, now's your chance, I guess.
No, man, I think we covered it. Drop in the comments down below to help the Glory Boys algorithm if there was something I
Yeah.
should have touched on. Yeah. See what we did there?
Yep.
I'm a pro, guys. I've gotten good at it.
Yeah. No kidding.
I think I love this. I love, like I said at the beginning, the full circle nature of this, like being from Nebraska, seeing other guys like you there, going hard at what you're doing, kind of carving a lane that maybe not a lot of other people are doing, sort of where you're at. So super grateful that you reached out. Love being a part of this. Love chatting. Hope it encourages people. And subscribe to the Glory Boys. That's what I got to say.
Let's go.
Absolutely.
Thanks, man.
Well, it is super valuable,
Yeah.
and we're really appreciative that you took the time to be on.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Thank you.
It's great.
Sick. Well, let's close
We
this
done?
bad boy out, Darren.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for listening. If you enjoyed this or you did not enjoy it, you should thumbs it up anyway. If you're listening to where you enjoy your podcast, any streaming platforms, leave us a 5-star rating if you think we deserve it, because it really does help us get in front of more people. We do this podcast to encourage people, and if we can get more in front of more people, we can encourage more people. And so, if you're on YouTube and you're watching it, which you should, because we're sitting in this really cool studio that took like 5,000 years to place every little piece of memorabilia
Yeah.
on the wall, and it hasn't fallen down yet, so that's a win. But go check it out on YouTube. It's super fun. Hit the bell for notifications. We post twice a month right now, every first and third Monday of the month. I got it right. I always mess it up for some reason. Every first and third Monday, we post a video podcast, an audio podcast. But thank you guys so much for listening. We love you so much. We hope you are thinking bigger after this episode with Christian. It was amazing, super inspired. And we love you guys, and we'll see you in the next episode.
See ya.
See you later.
See ya.